Hi, I'm Greg Dell with Attorneys Dell & Schaefer, and today I'm with attorney Rachel Alters, and we are going to discuss disability insurance claims with the Sun Life Insurance Company. As you know, Rachel, Sun Life initially has a Canadian division, was a Canadian company that has been in the United States for a long time. We've handled hundreds, if not thousands, of Sun Life disability claims. Just before we got on tape, we were sharing our personal views about Sun Life, which are probably a level of, I don't know if disgust is the right word, but
disgust.
Frustration. Obviously, there's a lot of frustration when you spend your career dealing with disability insurance companies that deny claims, but Sun Life happens to be exceptional. And so let's get into talking a little bit about an overview about Sun Life and why do we overall have this feeling of them being the way they are. What is it that first comes to your mind about a Sun Life disability claim that bothers you about them?
Well, it just appears that Sun Life looks for, I mean, a lot of the insurance carriers do this, but Sun Life looks for any reason to deny a claim, and they're looking for the easiest possible way out of a claim, the cheapest possible way out of a claim, and sometimes they'll convince a claimant to go ahead and, you know, take a small settlement just so they can cut them off and save money. And it happens all the time. So I just get frustrated with Sun Life and their tactics. I feel like they're a little bit underhanded.
Okay, so every company has a culture. Our law firm has a culture, McDonald's has a culture, everyone has a culture. All the disability companies have different cultures. I find that some of the disability companies are really looking to say, okay, this person's disabled, where's the evidence that supports them?
Right.
I feel like Sun Life's been trained and their culture is, okay, this person's disabled, where's the evidence that shows they're not disabled?
Right.
And so what that means is basically Sun Life's looking for a cherry picking of medical records to show, well, this is what's not in your records, as opposed to this is what is in your records. And there's companies who believe in, okay, we see things for support, and there's others who say this is what's missing. And Sun Life is clearly the this is what's missing company, and I feel as if they have a whole team of people to support this theory, whether it's their in-house nurses, their in-house doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, whoever they have, which they have a lot because they're a big company in-house, they all jump on board with this particular theory of here's what's not there.
Right.
So whether it's us helping a claimant with an application or an appeal, which comes after a denial, how do you go about dealing, you know, with Sun Life when you know that they're focusing on what's not in a claim?
Well, usually what we do is we have to work with the claimant's doctors to make a clear picture of our claimant as a whole person. So a lot of times just because there's not something specific in a medical record doesn't mean that the person is not disabled. You have to look at them as a whole person. So you can't just say, oh, well, because they didn't show on this test result, you know, their MRI was negative, but that doesn't mean that this other test result, which was positive, and that the claimant's been having these complaints and pain and et cetera that support the condition. You know, we have to work with the physicians to write in their medical records and to make sure that they're putting specific restrictions and limitations so it covers that claimant as a whole person and why they can't work. You know, they could be suffering from fatigue, back pain, headaches. You know, there's a lot of different issues that come with certain conditions, and we have to make sure that they're, you know, they're painted as a whole picture, not just looking at, hey, they didn't have this specific test, or this test result was negative, so obviously they're not disabled. It doesn't work like that.
So what Sun Life takes advantage of, in my opinion, is the fact that doctors treat patients. They're not treating the patient and documenting the chart for the insurance company.
Right.
They're documenting it for the doctor's reminder of what did my patient tell me last time the patient was here. And they don't put every single thing in a medical record, and they're not required to put every single thing in a medical record. So therefore, these doctors or nurses that Sun Life works with know exactly, you know, what to pick apart that's not there.
Right.
When we get involved, though, we work with our clients to basically say, you need to go back to the doctor and make sure that A, B, C, D, and E is in the claim file,
right,
or in your medical record. And then we also work by drafting our own custom attending physician statements to say to the doctors, we need to know if the claimant has these 50 different things that are affecting this particular claimant, and if you think it's reasonable that the claimant's having all of these complaints. which would then support that definition of disability, whatever that may be, whether it's the inability to do your own occupation or the inability to do any gainful occupation.
Right, and we can work with the doctor specifically to refute what Sun Life's doctors are saying. So Sun Life's doctors write a report, we can have the doctors, we can get on the phone with them and talk to them about how they can write something in opposition to this. And because they're medical doctors in that specialty, it's more supportive and they're more authoritative, and they can say, hey, I disagree with these peer review doctors, they don't know what they're talking about. These tests show X, Y, and Z, and they prove that she's got this condition and can't work. So,
what are the common definitions of disability that you see in a Sun Life disability policy?
Usually the definitions of disability are whether you can do the material substantial duties of your own occupation, and your own occupation is as defined in the national economy. After 24 months, though, it does switch. The definition will switch to, can you do any gainful occupation? And once it switches to any gainful occupation, it is much harder to get approved, because it is more of, can you do a desk job sitting at a desk 40 hours a week? And that's a more difficult definition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sun Life is one of the unique companies, probably one of the only ones that does this technique that you're very aware of, and you had asked me about this before we went on film, and I had suggested to you that we had filmed about this issue all the way back in 2011. So at a minimum, this has been going on for at least 10 years.
Right.
And basically, the technique of what they do is they call you up as a claimant, and it may have happened to you already if you're watching this video, and they say, hey, we're not so sure about this with your claim and whether or not we're going to approve it, and restrictions and limitations may not be supported, but we're going to offer you some nominal amount of money, which is maybe a couple months or maybe up to a year worth of benefits, or maybe
right.
until your definition of disability changes from the ONOC to the ENEOC. And if you don't take this, then we're not sure what's going to happen with your claim.
Right.
And we always tell everybody, under no set of circumstances whatsoever should you even consider taking that amount of money unless you speak to an attorney who can fully review your claim and let you know whether or not this is a reasonable offer or not a reasonable offer. But I can tell you I have almost never seen that this offer was reasonable by any stretch of the imagination, unless I had a claimant who said, they're giving me this offer, I think I'm going to have to go back to work because I can't live on what they're giving me anyhow. Even if it's going to destroy me to go back to work, I have to.
Right.
Therefore, I'm going to take this money because I have no other option. And that's the only scenario where I've ever seen a person take that money. But these offers are basically low ball, as low as they get techniques to try to get a claimant to go away out of fear of being denied and not thinking that you have an option.
Right. Well, I've also seen them tell the claimants that their claim is only valid for 24 months, even if the claimant has a physical claim that can potentially be paid to age 65 or retirement age. They will tell them, hey, your claim's only good for 24 months. We're offering you 10 grand. I would advise you to take this because after 24 months is up, we're going to deny your claim. And they don't know any better because most of these claimants haven't read their policies.
Right. So the bottom line is that you should not listen to what your Sun Life claim rep is telling you. Let's briefly touch on litigation. How hard does Sun Life fight, in your opinion, when it comes to litigation of a disability lawsuit against them? Well,
they fight pretty hard. They are pretty adamant when it comes to settlements. They kind of dig their heels in, and they do fight pretty hard. But we do settle the cases with them. We are successful, at least in my experience, in settling cases with Sun Life. But they will, if the settlement doesn't happen, yes, they're going to go to court, and they're going to try and win the case because it's an ERISA claim. And when it comes to ERISA, we have to show that Sun Life was arbitrary and capricious in the denial of the claim. And it's definitely, scales are tipped in favor of the insurance carrier with that law alone. So Sun Life has the upper hand, but they will dig their heels in.
I think
but a large percentage of these cases settle.
Yeah, I think if they have an arbitrary and capricious clause in the policy, which means the judge is bootstrapped to determining whether or not the disability company Sun Life acted reasonably, as opposed to the judge being able to do a de novo review, which means the judge can do a fresh review of the claim, is going to dictate how strongly and how reasonable of an offer Sun Life's going to make. But they have a lot of confidence in their ability and a lot of pride and probably a very high ego, I would say, that their reviews are perfect and they can't do no wrong, so therefore they think they're going to win a high majority of their claims. And there's a lot of litigation out there against them, and I would say that because of the arbitrary and capricious standard, they probably win more than 60 to 70% of their lawsuits when they have the arbitrary and capricious clause, because it can be a difficult threshold to overcome. But
Correct.
thankfully, there's many states that don't allow for discretionary clauses, and therefore there has to be a de novo review. It's a very technical issue we're discussing right now, and that's something that once we review your policy, determine where the state law that will govern your policy will let you know whether or not you're subject to this arbitrary and capricious review or a de novo review. So overall, in summary, we've helped hundreds of people with these Sun Life disability claims. We would love to have the opportunity to review your claim, whether you're considering applying, if you need to file an appeal, if you have to file a lawsuit. We're able to help you no matter where you live in the country. We'll always offer you immediate free phone consultation, and we welcome the opportunity to speak with you.